I was 18. I had camped many times before with my family, relatives, or friends. It was an ordinary summer day, and I had taken a 3-week annual leave from work. Due to the exhaustion from work life, I decided to go camping alone. My father had an old but functional caravan, so I took it and hit the road. I planned to camp in a mountain with a beautiful view and waterfalls, 36 miles away from our city. Usually the mountain I was heading to was crowded in the summer months due to its scenic beauty. Surprisingly, that night, there was no sign of any cars, families, or signs of life. Or at least that's what I thought. Anyway, I parked my caravan in a suitable place and started preparing for the camp. Since it was my first day at the camp, I wanted to explore the surroundings a bit. After a short walk, I returned to my caravan and decided to make a fire. After lighting the fire, I started snacking on the food I had prepared from home. Suddenly, I heard a rustling sound among the bushes and I shouted, "Hey, is someone there?" Getting no response, I headed towards the direction of the sound. I couldn't see any footprints or signs, but I wasn't without fear. It was getting late. I extinguished the fire and after checking the door again, locked it. After sleeping for 2-3 hours, I woke up because of a sudden rustling sound. It was as if someone was quietly approaching the caravan with small steps. I wasn't without fear and had taken my gun with me just in case. Holding my gun, I quickly went down from the caravan. I wasn't wrong. The sounds I heard belonged to a middle-aged person who had a baseball bat in his hand. After showing my weapon to scare him off, he started running into the depths of the forest without looking back. I didn't understand the man's intention. Maybe he wanted to steal something from the caravan, or perhaps it was something different. Since that day, I haven't camped alone. I was a little kid at the age of 12. Every summer, when our school ended, our school organized plans to see different places and learn different cultures. This summer, instead of going to a different country, our school planned a 7-day camping trip in a mountain 14 miles away from our city. My best friend Arthur and I planned to play Super Nintendo games every evening during these 7 days. During the tour of the campsite, Arthur and I discovered a very old abandoned hospital. We asked our advisor for information about this abandoned hospital. Our advisor explained that it was abandoned in the 1870s for various horrific reasons. When we asked if we could enter, our advisor, with a stern and irritated expression, said, "No." Arthur and I were really curious. After exploring a large part of the forest, it started to get a little dark. After dark, our advisor lit a campfire and started telling us stories. Arthur and I were really bored, our minds still on that abandoned hospital. It was showing 9 p.m. We had gotten permission from our advisor to sleep. After a little sleep, I woke up with a slight crackling sound. At first, I was very scared, but later, since we were in the mountains, I thought it could be any animal. To reassure myself, I opened the zipper of the tent. Just as I thought, there was no one around. I tried to sleep again, but I couldn't succeed. I couldn't fall asleep at all. So I started playing Super Nintendo. An hour passed and I was very bored. It was showing 2 a.m. My friend Arthur was snoring soundly. I started poking him to wake him up. The response I got was, "Get away from me, buddy." After a short time, I tried to wake him up again. This time, I said to Arthur, "Come on, buddy. Let's take a look at what's in that abandoned hospital." I had managed to wake Arthur up. 5 minutes after he woke up, after checking if there was anyone awake in the surrounding tents, or if there was any light, we headed towards that old hospital. Since the hospital was abandoned, they had also locked the doors. Arthur and I decided to enter through the window. After walking around the hospital, we finally found a broken window. Both of us were not without fear. Except for the moonlight, we had no other source of light. When we entered the hospital, we discovered patient bedrooms. Because we were kids, Arthur immediately started jumping on the beds. I, on the other hand, tried to explore the surroundings. There was a different room that caught my attention. This room was different from the others. There was red paint on its door, or at least I thought so. Maybe I was deceived. Because I was scared, I decided to go to Arthur. Just at that moment, a creaking sound came from that room. Without thinking, I shouted to Arthur, "We're getting out of here!" The sounds of jumping on the bed continued, but a voice came from outside. It was Arthur's voice. My fear had increased even more, and at that moment, the sounds of jumping on the bed stopped. When I tried to get out of the window, I felt a hand touch my legs and try to pull me back. However, I managed to get out of the window. Without even looking back, Arthur and I ran straight to our camp. Yes, looking back, we knew that entering such an abandoned place at this hour of the night was not a good idea. But we survived that night, and the next day, we went home. I can't forget that incident, no matter what.